Hey YouTube, it's Alex again. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how I purchased my first Airbnb, what you should think about before you purchase yours, and what I'm expecting to make on it. All right, so before I get deep into content, I just want to say thank you for everyone who watched my first video. This is my second video on the channel. I'm really excited to continue to produce content, and all of your comments and things have been great so far. So if you could smash that like button for me for the YouTube algorithm, I would really appreciate it. All right, so let's talk about this cabin that I purchased. Now, I bought the cabin back in June of 2021. Now, this is when everyone was telling me, don't buy real estate. If you buy real estate, you're gonna lose all your money. The prices are too high. You'll never find a deal. And that's the end of the video, and I never purchased anything, and we'll see you later. But in all seriousness, the prices were really expensive for some of the properties that I was looking at in the areas where I was looking. And so I made sure that I was looking every single day at these markets that I wanted to invest in to actually find that good deal if and when it arrived. And finally, after months of searching, I actually stumbled upon a property which was in my budget and where I did a lot of research and the numbers actually made sense. Now, my budget was to purchase a property that was less than $300,000. So let's talk through the numbers and kind of the analysis that I did before purchasing the property to make sure that I knew that this was going to be a good investment. So this is the actual spreadsheet that I used to make sure that this property was actually even worth purchasing. There's a couple of different pieces to this spreadsheet, and we'll kind of go through each one of these individually. Now, the first piece of this is the actual cost of the property. Now, the property was listed for $259,000, which was within my budget, and my budget again was that $300,000 number. Now, even though it was on the market for $259,000, it was actually appraised for a much lower number. So it was actually appraised for $233,000, which is actually just kind of mind-blowing, that for some reason the appraiser felt that this property was actually worth less. So now that we have the cost of the property, which was $233,000, the down payment that I paid was a 10% down payment because I used a second home mortgage, which has its own rules and policies that I can get into in a future video. But it ultimately allowed me to get into this real estate for a lot less than putting up 20%, which is pretty typical for a lot of investments. The estimated closing costs, and these closing costs I estimated to be around 3 to 5%. I was actually able to get the seller to put up a lot of the cost for some of these closing costs. So they paid part of my closing costs. So ultimately, it ended up that I was going to pay $2,789 in closing costs. Now, as far as furnishings, this was a fully furnished Airbnb, so I didn't need to purchase anything on top of that. And then I spent $1,500 in legal fees. So now you see that big number right there, which is $27,589. That's ultimately what I was responsible for paying. So let's just step back a second. I know that $27,000 sounds like a ton of money, and it is. And I know a lot of you are gonna say, oh, Alex, that's really nice. You must just have, $27,000 just sitting around. When in fact, I didn't. Now, one of the reasons that I was able to save $27,000 is because I have side hustles that produce money for me. I also have a really great job where I'm making over 6 figures. And then my wife and I really do live fairly frugally. And the reason that we do that is so that we can continue to increase our income outside of our 9 to 5. I'd also be really curious if any of you have done something similar where you've purchased a property or real estate or investment using side hustle. Feel free to let me know in the comments below. All right, so let's jump into the mortgage here. And that mortgage payment is basically what I have to pay every single month. Now, the interest rate that I received for the loan was 2.99%, which was an okay interest rate. Now, the loan amount was $209,700. And the reason it's $209,000 is because we take that cost of the property, we'll take out that down payment, and this is ultimately the amount that I still owe the lender. Now, the principal plus interest was $898.75. The home insurance was $117, and then I pay $194 every single month for taxes, which ultimately leads us to this $1,209.75 that I have to pay every single month. This is the actual way that I calculated how much could this property potentially be making. Now, the list price that I used was from what the former owner basically had every single night of the week. It was $119 is what he charged each one of his guests. So it'd be $119 every single night. Now, because I was able to look at the area and look at what I could do to improve the property, as well as the rental history on this particular property itself, I estimated that I could at least make sure that it was full 85% of the time. The other piece of that is, okay, I estimate that I will be taking in, as far as revenue, about $36,000, almost $37,000 every single year. Now, those yearly expenses, those are kind of an estimate. And those come from your OTA service fees, which basically means how much are you going to be paying Airbnb to actually use their service. So that's around 3%. Maintenance is about a 0.8% or so for the cost of the house, and that's how we get to this number. Then we also have utilities. Now, I estimated my utilities around $2,700 in total for the year. Now, I'm not paying a management fee, so I don't have to worry about that. So that doesn't mean anything. And then my monthly payment, comes directly from this monthly payment over here, so that's $1,200. Now, this is the most important number that for me was really important, is what's that monthly profit goal? So again, if I can make $16,000, to me, that's a really, really good investment. And here's why. Now, I just pasted these two numbers here, which are really important. Number one, the cash on cash return. Now, this is basically if I were to invest $1, by the end of the year, I would have $1.60. Now, that is pretty incredible returns, especially considering that the S&P 500, on average, those returns are around 10%. Even my 401k, which right now, because I am aggressive, is getting me about a 17% return on, or cash on cash return. These types of numbers are absolutely insane, which is why I wanted to make sure that I could get into this type of business. Now, the other piece of this is the payback in months, meaning that the amount of time that it's going to take for me to get that cash to close number back is less than 2 years, so really around 20 months or so. Now, again, this is all estimated on the fact that my list price would be at $119 and I would have 85% occupancy. Now, right now, I have about 99% occupancy, and really my list prices are a little bit higher than this because I've been able to get better photos, update the listing, and then also add some really great things and features that my guests are loving. So it's safe to say these numbers really made a lot of sense to me, right? A 60% cash on cash return, a 19-month payback period is really quite incredible. And so that's why I said, you know, these numbers made sense to me. I ultimately went in and paid that $27,000 to pick up the property, and now I'm able to reap the benefits. So that's how I ultimately ended up being an Airbnb owner. The numbers made sense, I had the cash to invest, and I got a little bit lucky in terms of the actual purchase price of the property. And if you've ever thought about becoming an Airbnb host, feel free to use my link to sign up. And when you do that, you'll actually get $75 back after you've hosted your first stay. So it's actually a pretty good deal. So again, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Hey YouTube, hey YouTube, hey YouTube, check, 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 check. Hey YouTube, hey YouTube.